You go away for a few days, get some R&R, go to collector summits, go to St. Louis, hang out a little bit with the community, and then when you come back, it's always that the comic book world has devolved into chaos. And so in this video, it felt appropriate to move the camera over, swing the chair over, come on over to the collector's corner and have a little fireside chat without the fire with the community here today. A lot of different stuff to talk about in this video, a lot of different topics to cover. I felt like there was a lot of things that were sort of parallel pathing in the community, and in a way, I wanted to kind of connect it all to sort of one major idea, talk a little bit more of a bird's eye view of what's going on right now in the community. And I guess I would summarize it with, this idea that, emotions always run high when values, in this particular case of comic books, run low. And so I wanted to kind of talk about a couple different topics going on with the community right now. See if we can, share some of our thoughts, connect some of those ideas, and ultimately end it with a little bit of copium at the end, and try to give us, a broader takeaway of kind of where we currently are in the market, where we currently are in the comic book community, where we might be going in the future, and to remind ourselves to sort of keep our eyes on the prize. But of course, before I get into it, like, comment, subscribe, all those things, guys. But let us get into this talk here today. Now, a little bit more of a pretext here. This might be a long-winded video. I have a lot of different things to cover. I have a lot of different topics I want to hit. A lot of connected ideas here. So, I don't know, grab a snack, grab a drink, grab some bags and boards, buckle up. We're going in on this one. All right. First thing we got to talk about. Negativity. Just the overall state right now. Just the turmoil that exists in comics. And for good reason in a lot of ways. For good reason in a lot of ways. Stolen comic books, scams, things of that nature. And I think I want to take it back, before we really dig in, take it back to earlier in the year. I made my predictions for 2023 video. And I got to pat myself on the back a little bit with this one. I got to pat myself on the back. One of those bullet points on that video was negativity. And more specifically, what I was saying in that particular bullet point was that, my analogy I use is that when you're on a winning team, if everything is clicking, everything is going right, all those little interpersonal issues that people have, all the little, holes in the armor and things like that, none of that stuff really matters. You can gloss over all those little things because everybody's winning. We're making the playoffs. We're winning the Super Bowl. All those things are happening right now. But what happens when you go on a 3-game losing streak? What happens when you start to not be able to win by double digits, week to week? Then things start to get a little testy out there in the market. And frankly, here in the year of 2023, the comic book space, the collectible space, guys, we're not a playoff team right now, okay? We got to give up any, visions of the Super Bowl that we had, all right? Playoffs, I just hope we can win a game. We're Jim Mora right now in the collectible world. And I think a lot of emotions are running really high in the market due to that reason. Obviously, we've talked about it many times here on the channel. Gone are the days of the free monies in the 2021s and even earlier 2022s. I mean, we've been, if you guys watch my index videos, think about this here. We've been on the decline for, 16 months now? That means any comic book, in theory, that you've bought at fair market value, at least like, say, a Silver Age or a Bronze Age key, for the last 16 months is less valuable today than it was whenever you bought it. That's kind of where we are with this market. So a lot of people are really frustrated in that space. And it makes sense as to why. But again, these are, macro economic conditions that are affecting comic books in this way. Now, we're going to table that a little bit, and we're going to jump right into this sort of Epic Nation comics, stolen comics things and all that sort of stuff. And I think, I don't need to really break it down for you guys. I'm sure that if you guys were watching this video, you've probably, seen some great coverage of this stuff. I'll shout out the Comic Con podcast, Nemesis Prime and Manimal. Shout outs to them. They always do a great podcast. You guys should be following them on all podcast devices and things like that. They really, had the initial coverage of this, so go check that out. What I really want to kind of talk about here is, it's not so much that the stolen comic books is sort of like the issue, or like why is the community so up in arms about this particular dealer and this particular seller. And in my opinion, and this kind of broadens out to like the larger sort of influencer, like what people feel about influencers again. Like here we are, kind of having that acetate influencer, conversation once again now in the wake of this Epic Nation stuff. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, the relationship between the collector and the dealer, or maybe the collector and the YouTube viewer, that the relationship that we have to these people is, should be this fair value exchange. Everybody here is selling you something, right? Like whether it be an influencer, a YouTuber, a whatnot seller, an Instagram influencer, whatever the case is, everybody is selling you something or providing some idea of some value that you have in your own mind that you're getting out of it. And that can be an okay relationship, right? It's a transactional relationship that we have here. I create content from what is seemingly a collector's point of view, right? I provide value to you guys, whether it be access to, dealer interviews, or I talk to people, or I share, my experiences with collecting, or little nuanced little things that I think of, or I, do the comic book index, right? And I create, these charts and stuff that you guys can pluck out, whatever you want to pluck out for them. And then in exchange, that value is given to you guys. And then in exchange, you guys either watch whatever, or you subscribe to my channel, or you pick up a copy of Sanity, or you buy a Sanity t-shirt, or whatever the case is, right? We have this transactional relationship that works for both parties. And so long as that relationship is met on both ends, then we're going to be okay. We're going to have a good dynamic with each other. Now, once that trust is broken, once the character that you believe that you're interacting with is no longer living up to their end of the bargain, then there is a real big breakdown in the community and how that person views that influencer, YouTuber, comic book dealer. And I think where I want to go with maybe what I would speculate in this sort of Epic Nation thing, or maybe widening it out to other sort of dealers out there, is implicit in the comic book market. And I realize this is not everybody, but implicit in a lot of comic books, whether they be modern, retail, hot variants, or they be, whatever, incentive covers, or even they be, key grails and issues, or like Silver Age keys, Golden Age keys, Bronze Age keys, whatever the case is. A lot of times, people sell you the idea that there's money to be had with this collectible. And I realize that might be a little bit controversial to say, and I realize that not everyone feels that way. But this is intrinsic to comic books, right? I mean, there is a reason why people bag and board their comic books, right? It's to preserve it, because you don't want it to go down in grade, because if it goes down in grade, then it's going to be worth less money, and you want your collectibles to be valuable. So a lot of times sellers are selling this idea of value, right? And if you're a dealer and you sell value, or that is in theory what you sell, there's going to be a point where if that value is not actually fulfilled to the person who bought it, they're going to be upset about that. And again, I would not make my bed trying to sell Sanity as a comic book that you guys are going to get rich off of. The value proposition for Sanity is that you guys are going to be entertained. And so my duty to you guys, if you buy the comic book, is that you're going to read it. You're going to get a great pulp adventure, golden age detective comic, and it's going to live up to that. And that's going to be the value prop. And as long as I live up to my end of the deal, then you guys are going to be happy with what you get. But if I'm selling you guys Sanity, and it's going to be, the hottest variant of the week, and you better get it fast. This is the hottest book, Implicit in that is this idea that there's going to be some sort of secondary market value, right, attached to that. And if you are somebody who buys it because you're buying it for that purpose, because you were sort of implied or sold that idea, if you're in the market of 2023, when no comic books are selling, and values are constantly going down, and we've been on 16 months straight of the comic book index in the red, what you thought you were buying is not living up to that end of the spectrum, and therefore you are going to be really, really upset with the people who were selling you that idea. And so that's kind of where I would sort of ladder it back to, and kind of close it up, because there's not too much else to say with the Epic Nation thing. He stole some comic books. He should get kicked off of whatnot, and I'm sure he's going to. Eventually the pressure will mount up to the point where he is going to get kicked off of that app. Like it's going to happen. It just probably takes a little bit of time because, he's not a celebrity football player. The reason the celebrity football player got kicked off of whatnot instantly is because he's a bigger name. So eventually this will make its way to them, but, and there are people doing, good work to get that done. But again, I think the reason that there is so much turmoil behind all of this is because there's a lot of frustration of, whatever that relationship was not being met from that particular seller. And there's other people that also, are sort of getting dragged into this and this idea, right? Like when it gets widened out to like the bigger sort of influencer thing is that, if those people are not living up to their end of the bargain of whatever they are necessarily selling, then of course there's going to be frustration. And frankly, it's going to be really hard to live up to your end of the bargain if you are selling, some kind of future value because you've been wrong for 16 months straight. Now, let's table that a little bit and let's kind of go over to this next idea, which is, I think, the relationship between the collector and the dealer. Now, there's been some other sort of friction things and topics and stuff that I feel like this would be a bigger sort of conversation in the community right now if it wasn't for these sort of stolen comics and scams and things like that going on. But yeah, like, and again, we're hammering home. We're talking a lot about values and stuff like that. And I know you guys are like, oh, someone in the comments is going to be like, why don't you talk more about, reading comic books? Why is it always got to be about values? And I'm like, well, okay, hold on. Tangent, guys. Let me just point out something right here, okay? First of all, there's a lot of YouTube channels that talk about interior stories and comic books and things like that. And hey, I've done a lot of stuff, okay, on my YouTube channel talking about stories and things of that nature. You want to know what the worst performing video on my channel is today? You want to know the literal worst performing video on my channel? Get this. Tips for catching up on your comic book reading. Dude, that was a great video. I had so many good ideas. So many good ideas on how to catch up on your comic book reading. You know how many people watched it? 0. Because you know what? Nobody cares about that stuff. Everybody only cares about, when Swaggle Haas posts an index video and we got the red down arrow and market is crashing and I got like my face palm like this. That's the video that people want to watch. So, okay, we're talking about this right now. All right, we're talking about this. All right, let's I digress. All right, back to the topic at hand. So the dealer thing, right? There's a lot of funny kind of, adages and sayings and things like that dealers will say, and last time we had the Collector's Corner, one of the Collector's Corner video, I talked about that idea of like, now being the time to buy, or, sometimes the dealers would be like, oh, they'll kind of say like, oh, get it now before it's too late, get it now, before it goes up in value, before it goes out of reach. Or there will be like other little, sayings and stuff like, you just don't see these books anymore, man. You just don't see these things anymore. And it's a lot of these kind of saying things. And the reason I bring those up is because, again, implicit in you just don't see these anymore. Or hey, get it now. Implicit in that, right, is this idea that, hey, these comics are going to go up in the future. They're going to become more valuable. And to those dealers' credit, historically speaking, they've been right, in the macro view. When we're talking about at least like key golden age comics or key silver and, to extent key bronze, and then maybe even to a very, very lesser extent, some copper and some modern. But knowing where we are, these last 3 years, all those things that those dealers say, they've been wrong, right? They've been wrong. Now, I don't know if they were knowingly wrong, right? I mean, what is that saying? Never attribute to malice what can be prescribed to incompetence or ignorance or something like that. You guys know the saying. Like, I'm butchering this stuff, but the idea being is like, not every dealer watches my comic book index video. You know what I mean? Not every comic book seller, is well versed in the values and the markets. I mean, you don't have to be a doctorate. You don't have to get a PhD. There's no license to become a comic book dealer. I mean, all you got to do is file your LLC with the government and pay someone on Fiverr to make a website for you. And there you go. So, I think that there's added turmoil in the community with this relationship and where we currently are in the state of the economy and the state of comic values, that a lot of people were sold a dream a little bit, right? A lot of people were sold an idea of a lot of key issues, and a lot of people for that reason feel scorned on some books that they bought. Even if you bought an AF-15, right, where it's like the king of the Silver Age, like the greatest Silver Age grail that you can get, if you bought it over the last 2 years, I mean, you're in the red, even on that book. So there's a lot of people that might be frustrated. And again, it has to do with like that misalignment of like, what were you being sold and what did you think you were buying? And is there, are those things aligned or not? And if you were sold this idea of a comic being a good investment and it hasn't been that, then you are frustrated. But let's kind of move it on now here to the bigger picture stuff. Again, I have some videos on my channel that I feel like they're so good. I feel like they're so good, but they are in the depths of YouTube and they're just, gone with the wind, who knows? But hopefully people can still see them or catch them or whatever. But, this idea, I think of my video was titled like, there's nowhere is safe, or there's nowhere to hide, right? And I think right now, we talk about this in the index videos. We talk about this in the bigger context to the values of comics and things like that. It's like the collectible world has been a bloodbath, man. It's been everything's been in the red. Unless you're somebody out there who's been able to be like a comic book dealer and a comic book seller, and you're taking short-term gains and you're finding collections out there. Those are the only people that are doing well in the hobby. People who sell comic books, right? Because they're able to, take those margins. But yeah, it's been a bloodbath. And I mean, if you look at the wider, market and economy, it's been, tough everywhere. I mean, some places are doing better than others, or some, places that you would put your money are doing better than collectibles. In fact, maybe collectibles is doing the worst, actually, of all the places. But the idea being, there is nowhere to hide. I mean, right now in this economy, with interest rates where they are, there is no place you can put your money that is a, silver bullet. Like, there's just nothing. I mean, you can watch all the financial channels out there, and people will just tell you, I don't know, interest-bearing savings account. Like that's the best strategy right now. The cash position, interest-bearing savings account. There you go. Wait it out. Hunker down. And I think, maybe a lot of people are frustrated in the comic space for that reason, or they don't have the proper context because they feel like, okay, they've been lied to or cheated, but really just everything is bad right now. So let me finish it out with this. You got to weather the storm. There's a lot of, I don't want to call it noise because that's dismissive of some of the issues in the community. I mean, there's a lot of scams. There's a lot of shady people, for sure. A lot of not so good dealers. This is funny, for me, as somebody who has a comic book YouTube channel with now a comic book publishing company and some other, Swaggle Haas R&D projects in development, who now feels like I work in the comic book industry. I've done a lot of stuff. I've been in film for over 15 years. I've written movies and screenplays. I've worked in gaming. I've worked in music. I've worked with R. Kelly. Okay, I've worked with some personalities. And let me just say, while I've met some of the best people I've ever met in the comic industry, I've also met some of the worst. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of not so good people in comics. And that's the reality. I mean, there's not good people everywhere, in every industry. But yeah, you're going to come across some people in comics that aren't so great. And we got to get rid of those people. And it's unfortunate because any industry where you can make money, there's going to be people that want to take advantage of that. I mean, that's just what it is. So we got to get rid of the scams. We got to do all that stuff. And hopefully that stuff works itself out. And I think that eventually it will. But the main takeaway of this video, the main point, the thing I want to leave everybody with is that comics are great. The future is still bright with a lot of this stuff. It's a really fun hobby. And I think it's easy to get disillusioned. It's easy to get frustrated. But there's a lot of great things in comics still. There's a lot of great people, Be choosy who you buy from. Be choosy who you spend your time with and you associate with. And if you choose right, you're going to have a great time, in the comic space. And it's tough times right now, economy, tough times, macro environment, tough times. We might still be on the slide for a bit, but I do think we're going to turn the corner and we're going to start to see the sun come up a little bit eventually. I'll leave us with this. I was at Collector Summit. Shout out to everybody I met at Collector Summit. I'm going to do some video. I got a little video thing I'll put together for you guys so you guys can see some interview stuff. It'll be fun. It'll be good stuff. It's good stuff. But one of the things I noticed at Collector Summit, I thought this was really interesting. I was at that show and biggest dealers in the industry, some of the biggest books, right? Everybody's walls, crazy. Any golden age, like every silver key you can imagine, every bronze key you can imagine. And in that room, on all the walls, all the dealers, everywhere there were only 2 AF-15s. Only 2. This is a far cry from where we were earlier in the year when AF-15s couldn't be given away. They were literally party favors, at comic shows. It was wild. Only 2 in that room. And on top of that, we have a heritage auction thing coming up. I'm going to do a catalog video. And in this heritage auction, there's only 1. And the star AF-15 book of the auction, this platinum signature auction, is a 6.0. I mean, no disrespect, I'd love to have a 6.0, but you know what I mean? We're at that point where in this market, nobody wants to sell these AF-15s anymore. Everybody's like, hell no am I letting my AF-15 go in this market. And what that says to me is that that's the first book, right? That's the first book that's the indication of you know what? I don't care how low things are going. I'm not selling it for this price. And that is eventually going to stop the dam from flowing, right? That is eventually going to seal up some of those holes in the boat, right? We're going to have some stop gaps on some of those books. And then shortly after that, that'll filter over to the Hulk ones, and then it'll filter over to the X-Men ones, and then it'll filter over to the Tales of Suspense 39s, and the Jim 83s, and then the Jim 85s, and then the X-Men 4s, and things like that. And eventually, we're going to find that stability. And then, that's when we can finally turn the corner. And not only will things turn a corner, but I also think we're in a really good space right now if you're somebody who believes in comics. If you're someone who's actually positive and has a good outlook on the future of stuff, this is such a good opportunity to take advantage. I mean, think about even just last little bit. I know this is a super long video. We're going to wrap it up soon, guys. Don't worry. I don't know. Grab some more bags and boards. You know, just the negativity right now, too, with like the MCU stuff and all that stuff. And look, don't get me wrong. These projects have been so bad. I'm the person who, like, when I saw Falcon and Winter Soldier, no disrespect to you if you like Falcon and Winter Soldier, I was like, this is what oh man. Don't get me started. I've been a tough critic, but I'm also a pretentious film student. So, you know, I don't know, table that. So the negativity, the belief that, you know, these movies are trash and all this stuff is, you know, going to zero and all this stuff. I mean, like, it's such a good opportunity if you think that things are going to turn the corner and, start to get better. And eventually they will, because they always do. They always eventually turn around. You know, I've lived through, think of all the properties. You know, comic books it's like, or you know what the MCU is going to be like? The MCU is going to be like WWE wrestling for everybody out there who's WWE wrestling. Like, yes, in some ways the golden era was the best. You'll never top Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior. You'll never top that era. That is always going to be the best. It's like the end game. It's like you'll never top that. But you're going to have some good pockets in there. You know, eventually you're going to get the Stone Cold and The Rock. Or like eventually it's going to move on and, you know, you're going to get like the CM Punk era. Or you're going to get some good John Cena days. Or, you know, you're going to get something. You know, it's going to turn around. There's going to be new fans at a certain point. And that's, I think, where the MCU will be. So I think you should be positive on that. I mean, there's a lot of negativity right now. Obviously, people are incentivized on social media to be negative. You know, you got to chase the clout and the clicks, you know, with all of this stuff. And, you know, mixed in that criticism are very, very fair points that I probably agree with a decent amount of them. But we're also at a time right now, like, you know, talk about the economy. I mean, take it from me as someone who does a YouTube channel, ad rates are lower. You know, people, it's harder to make money on YouTube these days. You know, you got to really ramp up those views. So you got to really, really farm that drama and really farm that negativity. So, you know, you got to put like, laser beam eyes in the thumbnail or flames or whatever it is, right, to drive that traffic, because even YouTube is paying less based on the state of the economy. So that's why you have a lot of negative videos going on YouTube right now, because people are incentivized to do that. So that's another part of it. But again, clear eyes, full hearts. I don't remember where that's from, but it was a good saying. And, you know, move forward here, because I think there's a lot of opportunity to be had in comics, especially right now in this current environment, in this current market. I think things are eventually going to turn the corner. And when we get on the other side of things and we get rid of all the people that were, the tourists in the comic space, especially the tourist sellers who really just came in for the quick flip and the quick, free monies, realizing that they can't live up to their end of the bargain anymore, and those people are going to churn, and the community is ultimately going to be better for it. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. That was me just kind of talking about some of the chaos going on right now, some of the calamity, in the comic book market. What do you guys think about everything that is going on right now? What do you guys think about the current state of the environment? Again, I'll just leave it with things are crazy right now, but things are also very positive. I think. I'm trying to be positive. You guys remember Marvel cards? Remember when people were paying crazy money for Marvel cards? That was how I started my video. I'm getting sentimental here. I've been on this thing for 3 years. 3 years on YouTube. And you guys have been watching this whole time, you haven't subscribed yet? Hit that subscribe button. Anyways, peace out.